that working on your end? Good job.
Yes, it's already recording.
Thank you. Okay, again, interpretation is that globe down at the bottom. We do have a simulcasting channel for interpretation happening, which means it's happening at the same time as our presentation, so you can stay with us in the moment. Okay, our agenda for the evening will consist of Rosetta Stone, tutoring, mathematics, our DLI Google site, a day in the life of a DLI teacher, and touching on the fall 2022 DLI application. That's for new student recruitment for next year. I am Ashley Peak. I've already introduced myself, Somos DLI president. That's me there. We also have Allison Urungore, another parent representative. I'm not sure if she is on now yet. If she is, she can go ahead and unmute and say hello. Maybe not. I think she is with a student at the moment. We're all parents of students in DLI and of course have lots of different requirements and things to do after school. We also have Jackie Murillo, who is another Washington parent representative. I know Jackie's here. Why don't you go ahead and unmute and say hi?
Hello, parents.
And we have Esther Garcia, our coordinator for English learners, TK through 12th grade. Esther, would you like to say hi?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Esther. And we have Patricia Thetford, our TOSA. Is that how you say that, Patricia? Dual Language Immersion, K through 12. Go ahead and say hi.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Patricia. Okay, some quick goals of Somos DLI. If you're new to this group, they are the same goals throughout the year. They consist of providing resources to DLI families to ensure success, fostering communication between school sites, parents, and the district, enhancing engagement of all stakeholders, and encouraging ideas and opportunities for students. And last, developing a roadmap for families, helping each other through this program at any stage. Okay, I'm going to hand this over to Esther. Would you like me to keep my presentation up for you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Hi, everyone. So this is just a little update on Rosetta Stone because we are very excited about the usage. But thank you to all of the parents because we started receiving many requests for Rosetta Stone Spanish and some English for some of our English learners in DLI. And we just had many requests from our teachers. One school in particular, Longfellow, to be honest, they requested 50 Rosetta Stone licenses. She just sent me a spreadsheet with all of the kids' information that we needed. And as of yesterday, they all got a license. So I appreciate that. Please make sure that your children are using this wonderful tool to practice conversational Spanish. That is what Rosetta Stone is. So they can practice that conversational Spanish and learn a vocabulary in Spanish too. It will be greatly beneficial for your students if they practice Rosetta Stone 10 to 20 minutes a day. They can practice in the classroom, they can practice at recess, they can practice at home, and they can carry it anywhere they want because Rosetta Stone is available 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, anywhere and anytime, if Wi-Fi, of course, is available and working, not like mine today. Ask your child's teacher to request a license if you have not asked your teacher to request a license. However, please know that you can also email me or Mrs. Thetford, and we will send your request to the teacher in charge of assigning the licenses. So if your child still needs a Rosetta Stone, we still have licenses available for you. Thank you. Any questions about Rosetta Stone?
Yes, I have a question. Hi, my name is Claudia, and that's only for Spanish conversations. That's right?
No, we also have the English one. The English Rosetta Stone is for English learners. If your child is an English learner in our DLI program, for that one, we do have a criteria for students to participate in this program. They have to be newcomers. They have priority, or newcomers are have priority to Rosetta Stone, or they have to be at the emergent level, meaning they're just learning English. This qualifies our DLI students because we know that they start learning English, or English learners, around second grade, third grade. That's when we start making that transition into learning English. So our DLI students definitely qualify anywhere between third and fourth grade. So if you have an English learner and you want Rosetta Stone in English, just let us know and we'll give you a license.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, maybe next slide.
Okay, I'll introduce you again since you're still here. Go ahead, Esther and Patricia.
Yeah, Patricia, would you like to talk about this one? This is exciting.
Sure.
We are excited.
Yes, we are really, Esther and I are really excited because we are going to be starting our high school DLI tutoring program. And right now we're in the process of recruiting high school students in 9th, 10th, or 11th grade who can help us with tutoring sessions. And then we are also recruiting our teachers who will be teacher supervisors who oversee the DLI program while the tutor and that tutee or the student are having their tutoring sessions. So our teacher supervisors are just as important as our high school students who are going to be tutoring the elementary students. Our tutoring sessions last between 1 to 2 hours per week per student. And what they are going to be doing is practicing Spanish using the core content in the areas of math, science, history, language arts, but most important also is being able to use the language in Spanish to communicate, to be able to speak. So it's practicing that language with the tutor. And of course, we don't want to overwhelm, the tutors or the tutees. So that's why we have their schedules assigned ahead of time. That way they use a Google Meet link to meet with each other, and then they start their sessions. And we are really hoping to start after that Thanksgiving break. So we're really excited about our program this year again. We had a lot of success with it last year.
Yes, we did. And one of the things that I forgot to add here is that parents, your child, your high school child will have an opportunity to earn their community work. We know that it's really, really important community work, that it's something that will look very good in their resume or in their letters when they apply for colleges. Colleges love to see students who help the community. So encourage them to participate. We are still looking for tutors. And it's funny that some parents asked about tutoring at our first meeting, and Mrs. Thetford and I had already been kind of like drafting some of the emails and information that we were going to send out. So thank you for asking, because that actually pushed us to really get it going. So we're very excited to have this again, because our high school tutors truly benefited from it, and they loved working with our little kids in elementary. And at the end of the year of their tutoring sessions, we gave them a beautiful certificate that said community work, that they earned their community work, and a little teeny tiny gift for participating in our tutoring sessions. So thank you so much for letting your child participate if you're here and your child participated. Okay, next slide, Ashley.
Okay, I will go ahead and introduce on our subject of mathematics, Miss Laura Ferrier, who is here tonight. And I do understand you'd like to present your own presentation. So let me stop sharing now.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for having me. Tonight, we're going to talk about supporting your elementary students with mathematics. My name is Laura Ferreira, and I am the Instructional Services Specialist for TK6 Math here in Riverside Unified. Tonight, what I'm going to be talking about is how you can find out what your students are learning in math for the year, as well as some ways you can support mathematics at home. And lastly, I'd love it if you'd take some time to fill out a very short survey asking what types of resources would be helpful for families on an RUSD mathematics website that's specifically designed for parents. So the first topic is going to be looking at how you can find what it is your students are learning in math. In order to do that, you will need to log in to your child's Clever account and open the Great Minds app. This is what it'll look like here on the right, and I'm going to show you how to navigate through this in just a moment. Once you open that Great Minds app, you're going to go on the left-hand side of the screen and click on the Find tab. And from here, you'll be able to see the grade level, and you'll have access to all grade levels, no matter what grade level your child is in. You'll be able to select the module your child is working on. And then from there, you can view the materials for the topic and the lessons within it. So if you look to the right of the name of the topic, you'll see the lesson numbers, and those will align to the papers that your child comes home with. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what it actually looks like when you log in as a student. So when your child logs into Clever, it will look something like this. The apps may be slightly different, but you will see this Great Minds app. If it's not here at the top, just scroll down until you can find it. When you open this app here, it will take you to the screen like what I just showed you on the slide. And the first thing you'll look for is on that left-hand side, you'll want to go to Find right here. Now that you're in Find, you'll be able to see the grade level at the top, and you can toggle through and switch to any grade level you would like to view. And then you'll select the module. So I'm going to, for this example, I'm going to look at grade 4, module 3. From here, you'll see that it's listed by topic, and you'll see the lesson number. So on your child's papers, if they come home with homework papers, you'll see on the top right-hand side, it will say the grade level, and then it'll have the module and the lesson also. So it'll say like, it'll have a 4, and then it'll give you the module number and the lesson number as well. And that's how you'll find the lesson. So let's say that I'm looking up lesson 4. So I would go into topic B here. And the first helpful tip is that here there's a parent tip sheet. For every single grade level, every single topic, there's one. When you open these up, they're quite handy because whether you're English speaking or Spanish speaking, you can quickly access both versions. So from here, I'm going to make it just a bit bigger so you can see. You'll see that for the topic, it'll give you the key concept that's going to be taught, what to expect on the homework. There will be sample problems. And then when there's key vocabulary that's being learned, oops, here, let me scroll down here so you can see it. There's how you can help at home. And the terms, as well as the models that will be used in the math lessons. And here at the top, you can choose the language. So everything that's here in English, if you'd like to see the Spanish, you just simply click on the button here and it will switch over, and the exact same information is available. And you can go back and forth and view both of them so you can see what's available for the topic. This same format works if you go down to the lesson. So here's lesson 4. You'll see that there's a daily instructional video. And these right here, the Learn and the Succeed, those are the actual pages from your student book. So It can be helpful in more than one way. Number one, you can see the English and the Spanish for whatever it is. The other part is if your child happens to forget something at school, you can always access any page directly from here. And don't worry if you don't have a printer, your child can simply look at the screen and do the work on a plain sheet of paper. That would be just fine. But the succeed here is the homework. And when you open the homework, what you'll see is the same design that English and Spanish are both available. It will start by showing you a homework helper, and the homework helper will first give you some problems that are already completed. In these speech bubbles, you'll see the language that the teachers are using in the lessons. So it'll model how it's being described. So if you've ever had your child say something like, that's not the way my teacher does it, right? Because the math is taught differently than the way most of us learned it. This is kind of your key to how it's being described now. And the homework helper is then followed by the actual homework. So down here, you'll see the homework. And again, at the top, you can go back and you can quickly toggle back and forth. So if your child is getting their homework and perhaps you speak English, but we know the homework is in Spanish, you can look here at the Spanish version and go back to the English version so you can help your child navigate between the two languages. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my presentation. And I'm going to talk about a second tool that we have. I have to go through the animations, I apologize. The other tool that we have that's district purchased to support our students with math. This second tool is Dreambox. You log into Dreambox the same way you log into Great Minds. So you would log into your child's Clever account, but you click on the Dreambox app. This is different than the Great Minds app because the Great Minds app is the grade level standards. So if you have a third grade student, your child is going to have third grade math homework. Dreambox is different because Dreambox changes based on the needs of the students. So it's a system that constantly changes and responds based on your students' responses. So if your student is struggling with something, don't worry. You don't need to jump in and help. You actually want to allow your child to kind of navigate that struggle and support them emotionally through it, because it's that the system is trying to figure out what's the right placement for your child. So this is one where if your child is that third grader, they may be getting content, that's from first grade level, and that's okay because the purpose of it is to fill in that missing understanding to get them at grade level. Or perhaps your child is on the other end. They're a third grader, but they're really ready for more. Dreambox is the app that will also do that for you. So they're not locked into just their grade level standards. It's open and it goes all the way from kindergarten material all the way to high school material that's available. And this is available in both English and Spanish. The students in DLI are currently set to have it in Spanish. So that's the language that's there for the students. But for this one, because it's student facing, it's not as necessary for the student to have that direct translation. Dreambox recommends that students do 5 lessons per week. So there's no specific time that the students need to be using the program. Instead, it's 5 lessons throughout an entire week. For younger students, these lessons can be 5 minutes or less because it's meant to be appropriate screen time for the child's age. As the children get older, the lessons can go up to 10 or 15 minutes, but most of them shouldn't take any longer than that 10 or 15 minutes. Some key things to remember as your child works on Dreambox are to be sure that your child's the only person working on the account. And that's because of that adaptability that I was talking to you about. So I know as a parent, I always have the tendency to want to jump in and rescue my child or save my child. But the way Dreambox works is if I do that and I'm supporting my child heavily through the program, it assumes my children know and it moves them on to more challenging content. So what can potentially happen is if I'm helping, right, because my child didn't understand, now I've actually progressed it and made the problem a little bit worse because now they're going to be in harder content because I jumped in. So What you'd rather do is just encourage them to complete the lesson. Don't worry if they're struggling. Dreambox automatically moves it to completion without notifying the child of that they didn't get it correctly. And then the next lesson that's assigned is one that's a foundational skill for what they just struggled with. Remind them that it's okay to make mistakes because that's how they're learning. And if they are struggling, they do have help or hint buttons, and you can encourage your child to use those as support. Now, the last few that I'm going to show you here are just outside websites. These are great for discussion starters if you want these for dinner conversations or something other than just what the core curriculum has. So the first one over here on the left-hand side is called Which One Doesn't Belong? And this can start very, very simple for students as young as kindergarten, and this actually goes all the way up through high school. It always has 4 quadrants. Sometimes they're just digits like this. Other times they're shapes or graphs or data sets. It could be all kinds of different things. The key to this is just you have to select which one doesn't belong, and you have to give a justification why. There's no actual correct answer. It's more about justifying your reasoning. So a child could look at this one here on the left and they could say something like the 9 doesn't belong because it only has 1 digit. Moving up a little bit, someone could say something like the 9 doesn't belong because it's the only one where the sum of the digits is not 7. Another student could say 16 doesn't belong because it's the only even number. So it's just wide open for different conversations, and it's kind of something fun to do with kids. The second one here is Solve Me Mobiles. These are especially fun, and they actually lead into algebraic understanding. What it is here is it's a hanger, and they will have a number, and it's a little bit like a logic puzzle. So they would have to look and say, well, there are 2 trapezoids, the 2 orange trapezoids, and it balances with 1 blue moon. So what could the value of the blue moon be if 2 of the trapezoids, which are equal to 2, right? And so it's talking through that reasoning. And if the child puts in something incorrect, the scale, the balance will change. Again, there are hundreds and hundreds of puzzles on here, and they range in level from very easy to very challenging. The last one is Would You Rather? And these are always mathematically based, but again, they're great for conversation starters, and it's just would you rather? And it gives the 2 scenarios, and you can choose, your child can choose, but the key here is just to justify the thinking with some mathematical reasoning. Some of the ones are similar to Which One Doesn't Belong in the fact that they don't necessarily have a right answer that fits all. One of my favorite ones that I have done with my daughters is it says, would you rather have $1,000 or a stack of quarters as tall as you are? So you can see how your child might answer differently than you do, especially if you're a taller person. So those are just some fun things you can do. And these are links that we can get out to you with the slides. The key, no matter what you're doing, is to convey the message that everyone can learn math. The research has shown us that if parents express to their children that they're not a math person, or I never liked math, it's always been hard for me, it actually affects the student's progress in math. So while you may be thinking in that in your head, we encourage you not to share that with your child and say things instead like, wow, this is pretty challenging. We're not sure how to do this yet, but we're going to get there. So now the last piece here is just this parent survey. I have it in both English and Spanish. I will add the links to the chat. If you could take just a moment, if you would be willing, just to add some resources that would be helpful to you, again, on a parent website. So I will add that to the chat in just a minute. But before I do, I wanted to check to see if anyone had any questions.
Laura, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. One of the tools that parents frequently request in mathematics is English that is equal to what the students are doing in DLI. I've even had some parents who wanted to know if we can provide them the textbook materials in English so that they can be able, so they can know what their children are learning and they can be able to help and support them. Because our entire program K-6 in DLI is completely in Spanish. So we completely understand why parents, need the English support so they can be able to help. So parents, this is a great opportunity that Laura showed you how to go into Clever and access Great Minds so that you know exactly what your child is learning in Spanish, but you'll be able to use that information in English. And so as you can see, it translates exactly into both English or Spanish. So this is a great resource to have because now you will have the resources from Great Minds at the tip of your hands. So thank you, Laura.
You're welcome. All right. I don't see any other questions. If you do have,
Yes.
oh, sorry.
Sorry. These mathematics are the same for the kids that are in only English classes?
Yes. Yes,
Thank you.
it's exactly the same math.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I'm trying to work on a second computer here. I apologize to get the English survey and the Spanish survey in the chat for you. If you're on a device that allows you to take the survey, please, I would greatly appreciate your feedback on this because I want to provide resources that would be the most helpful to families. And I'm going to get the Spanish one here up here. All right, perfect. So I added the links to the English survey and the Spanish survey. Again, it's looking at resources that would be helpful to parents in order to help you support your child. And then lastly, this is my contact information. I'm also going to type my email in the chat. And that way, if you have any questions specific to elementary math, I would be happy to help you. And if I don't know the answer, I will do my best to get in touch with someone who does have the answer for you. So again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop sharing and I'll hand it back over to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Laura Ferreira, for sharing that with us. I've learned a lot, and it's great to have those tools available to us. I'm one of those parents in an predominantly English-speaking household who's using Google Translate on the phone, trying to hover it over the math pages, desperate for it to tell me something that will help with my child's work. So this is exactly what I needed personally. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's great to hear.
I'm going to turn my presentation back on here. Oh, somebody already beat me to it. Nope, just kidding. That's my own computer. Okay, let's see. Pause for a moment here as I reorganize myself onto sharing the presentation. Okay. Loading. Oh, technology. I hope some of you are not having the problems that we have all been experiencing tonight on Spectrum Internet, which has been going in and out. So I do apologize if my computer glitches and I disappear. You have been forewarned. Okay, moving right along, we would like to share with you our DLI Google site that has been created not only by our team of Allison Urungoy and Jackie Murillo, but also with Patricia Thetford, who's put together a huge portion of this. And I'd like to introduce Allison, if you are here now. I will go ahead and open this link.
Yep, I'm here. Thank you for being patient. I know I wasn't here for the intro, but I knew my speaking part was a little ways down the line, so I'm okay.
You did great.
So Ashley's going to get this open. Like Ashley said, Senior Thetford set up this site for us, but the idea is just to have a Somos DLI website so that we can share that with parents and have a spot to go for upcoming events and resources. It will definitely be expanded. So this is just kind of phase one of the website. where Ashley's sharing here, you'll see the homepage. Of course, we have just our group's purpose. We have kind of recent happenings, what we've been doing lately, a link. So some of the things that we thought were the most important links to share. So the Rosetta Stone and the Riverside Library. There's a great video from the district on the DLI program. You can find on the homepage how to find us on Facebook and how to contact us. We have a Somos DLI email address now that you can find here. So if you have any specific questions for the group, this will be the place to find it. And I have, let's see, I will put it in the chat right now. I just put the link in the chat, but we'll also be sharing this on our Facebook and via email and all the ways that we have so that everyone has the link. Okay, Ashley, if you can just go to the book list. This is a good resource for parents. And I hope that as we go on, we'll build out, especially this section, not just the book list, but educational resources. So right now the book page has some great links to books in Spanish and also some other books that are not in Spanish. And I imagine that, as I said, as we go on, this would be a place on this site that we could share other resources that we find, other websites that are helpful. I know there are lots of things that parents use that we need to start sharing with each other. So hopefully in a future meeting, we can have kind of a brainstorm and add some of those resources that you all know about that we want to share with other parents, and we'll put them here on this site so everyone knows where to find things. On the events tab, we just share our calendar, pretty obvious, but that shows you when all of our upcoming meetings are. And there are also, I added the informational meetings for incoming DLI parents. So there's a Google Calendar here. And down below, we also share video and recaps from our previous meetings. So Ashley, right now we have today's meeting highlighted on the page, but as she scrolls down, you'll see our last meeting in September, and you can see the slides and the recording. So this will be a place you can come. As Laura just shared, I think I got the name right, Laura, sorry, shared so much great information. These meetings will be available. So hopefully lots of people will view them after the fact that weren't able to come to the meeting and can find those resources. So we're hoping that parents will utilize this past information as much as possible for those who don't make it. And then last, we just have the About tab, which probably, maybe you don't need as much, but just tells what we're doing, who we are, and again, how to contact us. So again, this is just our Somos DLI website. Thank you to Senior Thetford for setting it up for us. And I think it will expand greatly. So it's we've got a few pages right now, but hopefully a year from now, we'll share this and it will have so many resources for new and ongoing DLI parents. Are there any questions? I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but I better ask for a second.
I also wanted to ask if Senora Thetford would like to say anything about the book list that she created, because it's quite extensive if you are able to click on it and look around. There's a lot of good content on there.
One of the things about this book list is that you can find more of this book list in Colorín Colorado, and we added the website there for you. That way, if you're interested in going to that particular website, there's many more books, but we just felt that we added, some selections, for the parents. And then, of course, really important that we have some parent reading tips and how you can help your students navigate with books or give you tips on how you can read to your child, on a daily basis and even in your primary language. So it's really important. Thank you.
Tricia, we have a question. It says resources for reading comprehension. I'm not sure if maybe information on that.
In this particular list, parent list, there isn't anything about reading comprehension, but if you go into the Colorín Colorado website and you look under search reading comprehension, it will give you some tips about reading comprehension for parents. It's a wonderful website for parents it's not only about a book list or about reading comprehension, but many, many topics and many many themes. So I encourage the parents to go into this website.
And everything Colorín Colorado is free.
Yes. Mhm.
And I wanted to call attention to, I don't know if you can see my mouse on this screen. There's this section called Tips of Parents of, and there's an age appropriate guide all the way up to 3rd grade on here. It's great for those early first readers. I know that can be tricky as a DLI family if you're not used to reading a second language, but that's a big help. And that's all thanks to Patricia Thetford. Thank you so much.
Mhm. You're welcome.
Thank you, Allison, for sharing. I'm going to click off of this now. I hope I don't close the whole meeting. Let's cross our fingers and hope that I click the right button. Just try the back button here and see if that brings us back to, nope, we'll try this. Can you guys see my Google presentation again?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I didn't mess it up. Good job. Okay, moving on to a day in the life of a DLI teacher. I believe we have 2 guests with us, Mr. Samuel Duran and Mr. Arturo Navarro. And should I go ahead and click this link here to set up their presentation?
Yes, please.
Thank you both for joining us. I'll go ahead and let you take it away.
Thank you so much. Nash, if you can help with the slides, that's a presentation slide right there. Spectrum. All right, the next one, please. So I am Samuel Duran, Samuel Duran to my Spanish speakers, and then Arturo Navarro. And we're gonna just take a quick little trip into kind of the day in our life, you know, as a teacher in primary and in secondary. Next slide, please. So I am a 3rd grade DLI teacher. I have been teaching DLI for over 13 years. I've had the pleasure of teaching kindergarten, 1st grade, 6th grade, and my sweet spot, 3rd grade. So this has been one of my favorite grades. They all have their great points. Once we get into 3rd grade, we have a different model. As we are familiar, you know, we start with a different percentage of Spanish and English. Once we get to 3rd grade, it's a 60-40 model, which means that 60% is in English, 40% is in Spanish. So it's kind of that transition year. And, you know, it's one of those years where a lot of the parents get a little bit, you know, concerned. Well, my child's not really learning that academic English the way that I want him to. That's kind of one of the caveats, one of the things that we have to kind of remind parents, the language will come. So the way that we do it in 3rd grade, we have 60% English, 40% Spanish. Math is definitely in Spanish. And as Laura had shared, wonderful resources. Eureka, which is a curriculum that we use for math, has wonderful, you know, rich vocabulary. I love the instructions, especially that parent help guide and the homework is really good. Language arts, we do language arts both in English and Spanish, and we use Wonders, and its Spanish counterpart is Maravillas. So we have Wonders and Maravillas. What I love about that is that, yes, a lot of it's translated, but there's a lot of stories that are not translated that are culturally relevant to Spanish speakers, which is great. And social studies is done in Spanish. We use a couple of different things. We use Reflexiones, which is a traditional social studies book, but we also use something really great called teacher created materials. And in 3rd grade, they are learning about their local community, which is really great. Especially here in Riverside, we have a lot to share. Science is taught in English. And also a lot of, this district has a lot of supplementary materials for science. So it's not just your boring science book. We have things like mystery science. We have a lot of STEM-based activities. So there's a lot of wonderful things that we do that. In order to satisfy the 60% and the 40%, we have to manipulate the time. So I know for math, we do 75 minutes of math, and then the language arts in both languages need to be also considered. So that's how we get that 60-40 model. And it is very difficult. but it's definitely attainable, and we're able to do that. Next slide, please. So one of the things, so how do we support students who don't speak English or Spanish as they are learning both languages? That's a great question, because even in third grade, we have a few newcomers. We get a few newcomers, and especially now we have newcomers, not just from Mexico. We have, a lot of newcomers from Central America, Guatemala, Honduras, different places. And how do we help them? And I know that number one thing, we have to create a nurturing language environment. What does that mean? What that means is that there is a stigma. Well, that's not the kind of Spanish you use. That's not the kind of English we use. We need to value all language. Language is language. These kids with their background, they bring in some amazing language from where they come from. For example, last week we were talking about kites, and I have a little boy who came from Guatemala last year, and I have a fresh little girl that came from Querétaro, and we were talking about kites. So my background is from northern Mexico, my family. So we call kite in Spanish papalote. So we started talking about that. I'm like, and I asked my student from Guatemala, what do you guys call, kites? He says, barrilete. I've never heard that term before. Barrilete is a beautiful term. So I asked my other student, what do you call papalote in your part of the world? Cometa. So what we do is we use all those terms, put them together, make a list. I've had the same thing happen with English learners. A few years ago, I had a student from the Midwest, and we would talk. What are we having for dinner, Mr. Duran? I don't have dinner. We have supper, right? And another one was, I want some pop. I'm like, what's pop? Soda. So we have to value all language. We can create different posters, different things. We can utilize that. Even with the Spanish that we learn, it just frustrates me as a teacher, because I've heard it with Spanish speaking parents, oh no, it's just español corriente. That's not appropriate Spanish. But we are a condition of a culture coming together. A lot of the terms that we use, like carro is a, it's been transformed from car into carro, but it's automóvil. It's coche. Same thing with lonche. Lonche is not the formal term. It's almuerzo. But the thing is, we don't have to dehumanize our kids and tell them, no, así no se dice. That's not how you say it. We can say, you know what, at home, we might use that. And that's one way of saying it. But another way of saying it is almuerzo. We have to value all language. Kids have a wonderful treasure in them with what they do know. Another thing, when we get to class, we need to practice those foundational letter sound skills, as well as basic second language vocabulary development. So how do we do that? It's wonderful, because there's a lot more things in common with English and Spanish than we think. Those cognates are a key. They're key. And I know, and in the next slide, I'm going to share something personal that comes close to home. But those cognates are a key. There's a lot of terms. Parents, English-speaking parents, that don't know how to help their child in Spanish. You know what? There's a lot of terms that if a child is learning Spanish, they will pick it up. Family, familia, class, clase, chocolate, chocolate, baby, bebé. We have all these wonderful cognates. And, a lot of the teachers, I know Patricia's a big advocate for this, using cognates, having a good list, having it in the classroom, sharing that with students. Another good, important thing to do is having strong daily language routines. I know in primary, even in up secondary, it's important to have these language routines. I know I play this on my guitar. I play this phoneme song, which is a letter sound song in Spanish. I've played it thousands of times now. Árbol, be, bicicleta. But even in third grade, having those skills is really important. Having that, practicing sight words, which is a high frequency word, especially in English too, when we have our designated ELD. English is a funny language too. There's a lot of words that just don't sound the way that they're spelled. We have, when we're learning another language, duh. As an English learner, you hear da, D-A. We have that, and then we have our multiple uses for there, So there's a lot of things. So these high frequency words, reading fluency is important. It has its place. I'm an advocate for reading fluency, but not in comprehension. But in order for students to be able to decode, to blend, to look at the words and be able to read them fluently, that's a key, and to comprehension later. And another thing that we do is that we definitely have those targeted small group intervention. That means that we work in small groups. We find out where kids are need a little bit extra assistance in, and even if we have a small group for 5 minutes, and if we hit that key thing, it's really important to to address those needs that our students have in both languages. So those are some of the things that that we do in the classroom. Can we go to the next slide, please? So now, how can I help my child at home? In primary, and I know this personally because I have a little kindergarten girl, a little six-year-old. She just turned 6, Emily. She happens to live with her mom. Yes, her mom and I are not together, but we have a great relationship. And guess who's calling me at about 7 o'clock? Daddy, necesito ayuda. She's learning these things. So, and it's tough because yes, I do have the advantage of being a teacher, but what do you do when you might not know Spanish? And we all know one of the biggest things, and I tell this to parents, read books in your native language. Studies and studies and studies show that if your child has a strong foundation and their own native language, it's a lot easier to acquire a second language. So that's really important because comprehension is the same in all languages. It's the same in all languages. And this is what I love. It's the science behind this, behind being bilingual and knowing multiple languages. You make those cross-linguistic connections. And once you're learning another language, you have another repertoire to work from. And it's beautiful to do so. Another thing is exposure. We just happen to share in the Somos website wonderful resources for different things. Kids need exposure, music, YouTube videos, books. I know that our new library in downtown Riverside, I was so happy when I went there a couple of weeks ago. There was a beautiful Spanish section of books and relevant books too. And we need that exposure. I know that one of my favorite, I have a couple of favorite sites. I'll put it in the chat box, but one of them is I have it over here, is Imagineland Kids. And that's really good because Imagineland Kids is a great place where they read the book in Spanish to your child. And it's a teacher who does that. So this can be found on YouTube. It's Imagineland Kids, and there's wonderful resources, tons of books on there. And it's Imagineland Kids. You can find that. And then another one for kindergarten and first graders, it's called Happy Learning Español. And that's it's a wonderful lady. I believe she's a teacher as well. And she does little foundational language lessons. So, and another thing, like, do not be afraid to ask your teacher. Ask your child's teacher for assistance. They will be happy to help, especially with those tricky questions, especially in math. And it's really important to have communication with your child's teacher. So, is there any other questions or comments?
Let's go ahead and hold off to the questions until the end of the presentation. So Mr. Navarro has an opportunity to share.
Absolutely.
We'll answer those questions. Thank you, Mr. Duran.
All right, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to make mine really, really brief. I actually have another class to teach in a few minutes. So if you could go ahead and just click on the next slide. My name is Mr. Navarro. I'm the Spanish AP teacher at Poly High School. Now, what separates this class from all the other classes is that obviously they're in high school. They're not going to be taking as many classes in Spanish as they did, earlier in the year. So the exposure to Spanish is very, very different at this stage of their Spanish learning career. This class though is 100% in Spanish, and we're going to be focusing primarily on Spanish literature from all over the Latin American world. So we're going to be talking about Spanish culture, Spanish language, all the way from the medieval España to modern day Mexico and United States. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, we are really going to be diving in depth with our Spanish. So one of the things that you guys need to take into consideration as parents is that we're no longer teaching them how to speak language. They should know all the language they need to know by the time they get here. What we're really looking at is learning how to read, analyze, and read in between the lines all the language that they're using. So what are some of the idioms that are being used? What are some of the messages that are being portrayed in the readings that we're looking at? And in order to do that, we're going to be giving them some high level reading material where they need to really understand, be able to discuss and interpret, and most importantly, analyze the readings that they're doing. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. Now, what we're going to be focusing on this class is pretty much reading and listening and writing skills. So the speaking skills, you know, it's a Spanish class, that's really for language, Spanish AP language. But we're really going to be looking at literature primarily. How do we interpret literature? Go ahead and go on to the next slide. Now, remember that this class is designed to take the AP exam. All right, so the AP exam, unlike the AP language exam in 8th grade, this class is really going to be focusing on analysis and not just language analysis, but everything that has to do with analysis with a piece of writing, literature, culture, everything that they need to do. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, of course, we want to create a supportive environment. So at the high school level, we are going to be providing a lot of opportunities, tutoring opportunities with teachers, and they also have the opportunity to become cross-age tutors for other students that might be in need as well. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, how can you help back your child at home? Now, hopefully at this stage, you guys are getting your kids to read. And I hope that you guys are able to encourage your students to read in both English and in Spanish. Because in my class, we do read a lot of literature out loud in class. And even at that stage, I still notice some students, you know, kind of hesitant on a few words. So getting them to read as much as you can. Also, you could get them to write. That would be great as well. Have them write a brief summary or have them tell you, what is the story about? What can you tell me about the main character? What can you tell me about what the story is? Now, it's hopefully as they progress, you could tell them, you know, what do you think the theme is of the story? What do you think the author's trying to portray? Remember that we're going to be looking at every part of the language culture, in this class. So not just the language itself, but the culture itself. So we're going to be looking at art. We're going to be looking at different cultures and different historical contexts throughout the world. If you guys could support them by taking them out to museums or cultural events and ask them, you know, how do you think this connects to the reading that you guys are looking at? Because, you know, when they get to the AP exam, that's exactly what they're going to be doing. And then lastly, you know, we want to make sure that you guys keep promoting that college readiness. But remember, this is a college level class. So, you know, get them to start getting good reading skills and studying skills. Because this class, honestly, will become very difficult very, very quickly. So we want to make sure that they're ready, both, you know, linguistically and academically, because this class, you know, is not very hard, but it does demand a lot from our students. Okay. And thank you all. So that'll be all for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Navarro.
Have a good night, everybody.
And thank you, Mr. Duran, as well. We appreciate your time with us tonight. Let's get my screen back on here again. Okay. The same screen. Okay, sorry, bear with me here.
Go to your Google slide on the top tab.
There, I think I got it. Thank you, Mrs. Thetford.
Mhm.
Success. Okay, moving right along. And I know we are coming up just on an hour here, so I think I should probably go ahead and say that maybe we will take the questions that we can up to about 6:15, and then the rest of them we can write down and get back to the people that have asked them. So if you don't mind leaving your email address so that we can contact you And here we have a slide just on our DLI application dates, which of course pertains to anybody joining the program for next year. And that's the fall 2022 window, which of course, as you remember, starts now November 1st, 2021 at 12 p.m. And the application window will close December 10th, 2021 at 4:30 p.m. So that is the traditional application window. Then of course, there's the after window section for parents that maybe forgot to put in an application or just learned about it later than anticipated. There's a secondary schedule there. Would you like to add anything to that, Esther?
No, you did a wonderful job. Just remind parents that the application opens on November 1st. I only have to say that because I have a lot of parents already emailing me or calling me and saying, the application says it's closed. So it is closed until November 1st.
Right, nobody panic. We're still really early. You have lots of time, but make sure you get that in right away. And of course, the link is here. Maybe Jackie, would you mind throwing that in the chat? And that, of course, is to our DLI website. I'm going to go to the next slide. These, of course, are our DLI schools. If you are new to DLI, you might not know the progression, the path of travel in schools. And I'll just read them through here. We've got starting with Longfellow and Fremont Elementary, which of course moves you to University Heights Middle School. Is that what it's? I always get that name wrong.
Correct.
And then that feeds into John W. North High School. We also have Castleview Elementary and Washington Elementary feeding into Gage, and that ending up at Poly ultimately. And last we have Jefferson and Mountain View, love the Roadrunner, feeding into Sierra Middle School, and then eventually Ramona. These are the intended path of travel for your students if they are at any of these school sites. That's where they are anticipated to end up with in middle school, and then of course in high school. And that brings us to a next very important slide about transfers. If you're reading that last slide and you're wondering about your place, your child's place in school, and wondering why they're going to one school and not another, this would be something for you to pay attention to. Transfers are available both in district and out of district. Parents may apply to the program. A transfer application can be completed and will be available on the DLI website. It also adheres to the same schedule as the DLI application. So that's very important to note because it is a different application window than the traditional school transfer window application. And it's on DLI site, not on the RUSD site. You may apply to a transfer for the DLI school you wish your child to attend. A lottery, this is the big important part, a lottery will be implemented, if a number of applicants is greater than the spaces available. Transfers are not guaranteed, and Esther works very hard to make sure that all of the students and families that wish to have their students transferred get their wish granted, but of course it's not guaranteed. But this is the process should you wish to apply. This is how you do it. You want to add anything, Esther? Did I?
No, you did a wonderful job. Thank you. I'm going to take you on a road show to recruitment.
There we go. Thank you. Okay. A little bit about our after school program. Go ahead, Esther.
Yes, this was another question that parents had at our previous meeting. And just a quick review of the after school program. Our after school programs are funded by 2 grants. 21st Century and ACES. I didn't get the acronym for ACES. It's not a program or a fund that I work with a lot, but if you're interested in knowing what it means, I definitely will get it for you. The targeted population under these 2 grants are high need schools. Who are the high need schools? Schools with a large population of English learners, or a school also that has a high number of students who qualify for free or reduced lunch. The staff includes a coordinator at the district office, a teacher on special assignment who manages the program at the school site, with Boys and Girls Club lead and tutors. It tends to be a pretty large staff, about maybe 12 to 15, depending on the school site. The instruction, they do provide an academic hour with homework support. I want to emphasize support because a lot of parents sometimes get upset if the child doesn't complete the homework during the program. So this is just support. Visual and performing arts and extracurricular activities. And the good news that I did find out is that the program will be expanding next year, and Castleview is on the expanding list. So far, as far as our DLI schools, expanding next year, Castleview is the only one on the list that qualifies to expand into receiving an after-school program. So I know the coordinator will be working very, very hard in the spring with Castleview to start planning the expansion and bringing the after-school program at Castleview. The only way that this might not happen is if funding is cut. This program is not it's not a permanent, very secure program, only because the funding does come from 2 grants. And if the funding is cut by the state and the 2 grants, that means that less schools will join, and even some schools that are right now currently receiving the after-school program can also be cut. That happened to me as a principal for 18 years. I did have one site where they cut me from a full-time program to a 50% program. So, and it was a huge loss because I went from having 200 to 250 students at the after school to not being allowed to have more than 100. So it is a huge impact. And it was because at that time, that year, the grants were cut. So I'm gonna cross my fingers that the funding looks very promising for next year and that we are able to expand to Castleview.
Thank you, Esther. Okay, we are almost at the end of our meeting, and this is a quick reminder for future meeting dates. You can add them to your calendar. Of course, tonight is October 12th, so don't add that one unless you'd really like to. Our next meeting will be November, and we will not have one for the month of December. And they're always the second Tuesday of every month at 5 p.m. And some more about that, the Zoom link is always the same. The meeting ID and passcode is always the same. Feel free to save those in your Zoom app. And last but not least, I'm Ashley Peak, finding my notes again, Somos DLI president. If I didn't say it, I have a 4th grader in school at Washington and a brand new kindergartner at school at Washington as well. If you need to contact me for any reason, my email address is here. And Esther Garcia, of course, is our coordinator for DLI. Her email address is here. She is the one working for the district. If you need to contact her for any reason, please do so there. We have a new email address to share with you here. That's the rusdsomosdli@gmail.com. You can send any general inquiries there if you'd like. If you don't like to use Facebook or you're not comfortable reaching out to any particular person, that will get all 3 of us, Allison, Jackie, and myself, will be monitoring that. We also have our, whoops, where'd we go? We have our URL there listed for our website. We'll be sharing that on our Facebook page and hopefully on our regular DLI site on RUSD. So that sums it up. You can find us on Facebook, and we appreciate so much everyone that came tonight and all of the presenters that shared with us. Thank you, Jackie and Allison and Patricia and Esther. And thanks for coming, guys. We'll see you next time.
Are there any parents that may have a few questions? We have a few minutes if anybody wants to take the mic.
I have a question. I know that the RUSD is having a lot of issues as far as finding subs for like any school right now.
But I know some of the teachers had expressed to me at our school that because it's very hard to find a sub for DLI classes. A lot of the classes, if the teacher gets sick or leaves or they can't find a sub, they're pushed together in classes. They're like, my daughter literally had this happen on Friday, where they got a sub for her class, but she got sick and she had to leave. So then all of her class had to go with the other 4th grade class, and they were all in one class at one moment. Yeah, and they didn't have anybody else to, like, I know the vice principal has been taking over a lot of the classes that are short staff. But another concern too was the DLI teachers were telling me that they're not allowed to go to trainings anymore because they're so short staffed. So is there any way that we can maybe find a way for these teachers to still get their ongoing training for DLI to kind of help them continue?
The teachers are getting the training. We had a little window where we have a district-wide training on the multi-tier systems of support that affect all students, including our DLI. And so because of those trainings, where we were training a large number of teachers and principals and everyone involved, they actually asked us to pause on our training for this month only, for October. And so what we did is Mrs. Thetford, who was all ready to go and train our DLI staff, she actually paused it. We postponed the training. We didn't cancel it. And we're actually having it in November. She just sent out this week the notice to all teachers, and anyone can sign up. So and before that, she had 2 trainings already where she trained multiple teachers. So we were able to push 2 trainings, and we have 2 more trainings, and then we're gonna pick it up back in around February and March to continue the training. With the big culminating training that is coming up in the summer with a truly wonderful DLI expert. He's Dr. Jose Medina. And so we're actually bringing him to train our staff. So trainings, yes, teachers will continue to participate in training, just not in October. Yes, and just so you know, Mrs. Thetford, Senora Thetford, and I have been substituting in classes to make sure that our DLI, so if her and I are available, we are in the classrooms teaching the children so that they don't create the combinations that you just discussed. So, and even our superintendent has substituted in classrooms. That's how we have I think, I don't want to call it a big crisis, but we have kind of like a little crisis of substitute teachers where we just don't have them available. But our entire district management team is out there helping and substituting.
Thank you.
I hope I answered your question. Okay, I think we have time, 1 more minute. Oh, it's 6:15, Ashley. It's your call.
I tried to cut us off too without questions. I forgot about that part. Jackie, were you able to write down any of the questions that were in?
There really wasn't that many today. But yeah.
Okay, then we are set. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating and helping. And we appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Have a nice evening. Thank you, everyone, for attending.